Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing a brake fluid change on my 2008 Ford Escape. I'm going to make a container first for the old brake fluid to drain into. And what I'm going to do is I bought some 3/8 inch tubing with an inside diameter of 1/4 inch at Home Depot. It's very cheap. Next, I'm taking an old coffee, instant coffee container, Nescafe. You can use whatever you want. And I'm just going to drill a 3/8 inch hole. And there I go. I take the tube, and what you want to do is put it in the cap, put it down, and you want to reach the bottom of your container. So just like that. That's in the event that when you're controlling the bleed valve on your brakes, that no air will be sucked up into the system. You don't want air in the system. So what this does is it prevents it from being sucked up into the system. Next thing we're going to do, now I'm going to cut that down. That's way too long, but one of the things you want to do is go over to your brake fluid reservoir and make sure the cap is clean. The cap is clean on this, and I take off the lid. I was doing some brake job before, and I have some leftover fluid in here. And what I do is I take this syringe, okay, it's called the Mini Mix Miser. I use this for mixing a 2-cycle gas. So we want to suck out the brake fluid that's in here. We want to get as much as we can out without going below the very bottom, because we don't want air into the master cylinder. You want to do this because you want to pour clean brake fluid into your system. So when you bleed out the brakes, you're bringing in the clean brake fluid. We have our old brake fluid in here. Now we have to take some new brake fluid. I bought this at the store. I have a bottle of old brake fluid, but I've had it for many years. I'm going to throw it away. It's not worth the risk. The brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means that it does absorb water, and water has a lower boiling point than the brake fluid. So when you press on your brakes and they heat up, what it does is it boils the water inside the brake fluid, and this is what breaks down the brake fluid. So, and also water in the system is bad, because water can make your brakes go mushy on the brakes. Now let me just open this up, and what we're going to do is pour this in gently, because we don't want want to put it in too fast to create air bubbles. We're going to overfill this because when we bleed out the brakes, lose some of the fluid. So we gotta bring this all the way to the very top. And then we'll put the cap back on. And put the cap back on your container of brake fluid. Now mine calls for .3 brake fluid. You have to look at either the manufacturer's book on your vehicle, or it's written on the cap itself that it says you only .3 brake fluid. So that's what you want to do. Anyway, let me now I'm at the right rear passenger side brake. You have to check the manual, your shop manual, for the sequence in order to change your brake fluid, because there is a sequence, and it's usually dependent on whether you have the ABS controller. Now mine is up front on the left front passenger side of the vehicle. So this is the furthest wheel away. The sequence order for this vehicle is right rear, right front, left front. Now, behind the brake drum, there's a bleeder valve and there's a dust cover. What you do is you pull that dust cover off of the bleeder valve. This takes a 10mm wrench to control it. And what you do is you take your tubing that we already cut down to size, and we place this in over the bleeder valve, the nipple. There's a nipple on the end. Then what we do is we take our 10mm wrench. This is the part where I have to have my assistant go inside the vehicle to depress the brake pedal. So the instructions that I'm going to give to her is press, will be pressed down on the brakes, and then I will give the command, of release, which means to take your foot off the brake. I'm going to show you what comes out of here when she does that. So we're here now. I press on the brake. See, now it's coming out. Press, keep on pressing. Are you pressing?
Yes, all the way down.
All right. Release. Did you release?
Yes.
Press.
It's not pressing.
What?
It's hard.
All right, keep it pressed. Release. All right, well, it should be draining out faster than that. The nipple may be clogged, so I have to check the nipple on the for this nipple. They just screw out. There's a little hole in the side, and let me check it. I checked out the rear. It's all completed. Now what we have to do is we have to add more brake fluid. It went down, so we have to fill it back up. Fill it all the way. So I did both rear brakes. One side just mirrors the other side. Now for the brake pads on the disc brakes, it's a little bit different, but it's the same because it's not a drum brake. Now another thing I'd like to bring into attention, I made a mistake on the size of the wrench. It wasn't a 10 millimeter, it was a 3/8 for the bleeder valve. So anyway, it's right here. The dust cover is right here for the, all you have to do is follow the brake line down. This is the brake line, goes into the rear of the caliper, and right next to it is the bleed valve. And we just take that off. It's a little stiff. Okay, take off the dust cover. We put the wrench over it, and then we hook up our tubing right here. Put the tubing on, and my assistant will go inside the car and press on the brakes. Press on the brakes. Oh man, this one's a little stiff. Hold on, I've got to put down the camera. Use both hands. Okay, I unfroze it. I used a little bit of WD-40 on it, making sure that I didn't get it onto the brake rotor or the pads. That's very important. Now, I'll have my wife press on the brakes, and so the front right brake is done. You saw how it was. I'm going to do the other side, the last one. Now you put the dust cap back on, and I already topped off the reservoir. After each position, you always fill up your reservoir. You don't want your master brake cylinder to run dry, because the seals inside of it will rub, and you'll have major problems, and then you're gonna have to replace your master brake cylinder, which is an added expense. That's all that's to it. I gotta put this wheel back on. Now some people, they don't take the wheels off, they get underneath the car to do it, but I find it easier to take off the wheels. And while I'm at it, you always do an inspection of the boot. You do an inspection, make sure that your brake lines aren't leaking. Check your tone rings for your ABS brakes, because a lot of people say that they had problems with the Ford Escape with the tone rings cracking. It's a big job to do. I don't feel like doing it, but if I have to, I have to. Anyway, oh, one other thing. Now, for getting rid of your brake fluid, the old brake fluid, you can either find a place that will recycle it for you, or there's a process that you could do at home for yourself, and it's recognized as an approved way of disposing it. You take kitty litter, cat litter, pour it in a box, pour in the brake fluid over it, and in 3 to 4 days it evaporates, and then you can dispose of it. But make sure that you keep it away from any animals or anything like that. You don't want to poison the animals. So that's all we have. Please click like, subscribe, share, comment down below. It's not a hard job to do. Now they do sell devices for this to do a one-man operation. I just don't feel like spending the money. I'm cheap. Anyway, have a good day, everyone.